I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we'll fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years. It would be wonderful if we could devote our full time to making America great again.
Ahead on Early Morning, indicted again. Former President Donald Trump says he's an innocent man after being indicted for the second time this year in connection to the classified documents probe. What we're learning as you're waking up on this Friday. And a thick haze of smoke continues to loom over several states on the East Coast following those massive wildfires in Canada. A look at the conditions from the nation's capital. Hello and happy Friday. From NewsNation World Headquarters in Chicago, I'm Nick Smith, and this is Early Morning. We begin this hour with breaking news. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted for a second time this year. Special Counsel Jack Smith has indicted former President Donald Trump in the classified documents probe. A source tells NewsNation prosecutors will bring 7 charges against Mr. Trump, including conspiracy to obstruct and at least 1 charge related to the Espionage Act. The former president and current 2024 candidate broke the news of his indictment on his Truth Social platform last night. Mr. Trump says he has been summoned to appear in a Miami federal court on Tuesday.
They go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country, by far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxers hoax, just like the Russia hoax and all of the others. It's just been going on for 7 years.
It's important to note we still do not know what those charges will be and if anyone else could be charged. It's the first time a former president has ever been federally indicted. An indictment and even a possible conviction would not prevent Mr. Trump from running for president. Many prominent Republicans are speaking out following the Trump indictment. Trump's top challenger in the Republican presidential primary, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, tweeted, "The weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to a free society. The DeSantis administration will bring accountability to the Justice Department." House Speaker Kevin McCarthy also reacted, tweeting, "Today is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. I and every American who believes in the rule of law stand with President Trump against this grave injustice." To help us break down the Trump indictment, we're joined by former federal prosecutor Mitchell Eppner. Mr. Eppner, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
Absolutely. I need you to help us weed through all of this because there's a lot happening, and I want to make sure that we're clear for viewers who may not be following every inch of this. The charges remain sealed. From what you know about this case, do you have any idea what the charges could be that Mr. Trump could actually face?
Well, Mr. Trump's attorney went on the media last night and said that one of the charges was an Espionage Act charge, and that's the most serious one. And the other charges are obstruction of justice, making false statements to law enforcement, and possibly one conspiracy charge. And the Espionage Act charge is extraordinarily serious and something that puts the former president in real danger of spending a long period of time in jail.
Mr. Eppner, break that down for me. What does that mean when we say espionage charge? Because it doesn't necessarily mean he was selling secrets, correct?
Correct. So I'm going to read the relevant statute. It's section 793D for people following along at home. And it says, whoever lawfully having possession of any document relating to the national defense, which information the possessor has reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, willfully retains the same and fails to deliver it on demand to the officer or employee of the United States entitled to receive it, is guilty. So just breaking that down, it doesn't depend upon classification because the Espionage Act came long before there was a classification system. It just has to relate to the national defense, and it has to be something that Trump had reason to believe could be used to the injury of the United States or to the advantage of any foreign nation, and he has to have willfully retained it after being demanded to return it. And based upon what Trump has publicly admitted to, it seems as if there is a very compelling case on that charge.
I have to believe that this news of this indictment is troubling for so many Americans, because I don't think any American wants to see a former president indicted on federal charges. Mr. Trump also went on Truth Social last night, his social media platform, talking about his expectation to appear in court on Tuesday. What should we expect when the former president appears in federal court next week?
So when he appears, that will be for something called an arraignment. At the arraignment, the only thing I expect he would say is the words "not guilty" when asked how he pleads. There will be bail set. There may be a schedule set for when this case will be brought to trial. And prior to the arraignment, we will actually get public disclosure of the indictment.
Now, Mr. Ebner, why was Mr. Trump indicted in Florida instead of Washington, D.C.?
So this is a very good question, and I'm glad you touched on it, Nick. The charge that I expect that he is going to face under the Espionage Act was not initially removing the documents from D.C., but rather holding on to them when the National Archivist demanded their return. And that was something that he did while he was at Mar-a-Lago. So that is why the case is being brought in Florida, because under the Constitution, the charge has to be pursued in the venue, the district, where the crime was committed.
Mr. Ebner, I've got so many questions for you. A couple more I do need to ask you. If you were Trump's lawyer, how would you be advising him right now?
Well, I would advise him to shut up, but I'm positive he would not take that advice.
Don't make me laugh, Mr. Ebner. You would advise him not to speak out, but Mr. Trump does believe that his getting in front of this, I have to believe, works to his advantage, because we have not heard from the special prosecutor since you mentioned that. The special prosecutor may or may not reveal what the actual charges are on Tuesday, correct?
No, he will reveal. He has to. The indictment has to be unsealed. What we may or may not learn are what are the particular documents that former President Trump refused to return, because by definition, those are national security documents. And there is going to be a real tension between revealing those documents to the public and a fair public trial, because they're secrets. They are, by definition, their revelation is dangerous to the United States.
Gotcha. So to be clear, we will know what the charges are, but we may not know all the details connected to those charges, particularly the information pertained within those documents.
Correct.
And is
yes.
it possible that even with all of this, a trial possibly, none of this would happen before the 2024 election? How would this indictment affect the timeline?
Well, I'm not sure about that at all.
Oh, okay. Talk to me about that, Mr. Ebner.
So under the Speedy Trial Act, the case has to be brought within 70 days of indictment, unless almost always happens, unless there are motions or other things that slow it down. I would expect that the special counsel's office will do everything they can to move this case forward as quickly as possible. We will see who the judge will be. We don't know yet. If the judge wants to move this case forward, it will get tried before the 2024 election. Wow.
Mr. Ebner, last question for you. I have like 60 seconds. How will this indictment affect the timeline of the criminal case against him with the DA in Manhattan?
So that case is not moving quickly. It is not, the next hearing in that is not scheduled until December. And my expectation is that that case will be fit in around the edges of when this case moves forward.
Wow. Nichole Ebner, a federal prosecutor, thank you so much for joining us this morning, helping us break that down.
Thank you for having me, Nick. I really appreciate it.
I have reason to believe we're going to be asking you back again a few more times next week as well. Nichole Ebner, thank you so much. Have a good day. We will continue to follow the latest developments on air and online at newsnationnow.com. Coming up on Morning in America, Donald Trump's attorney, Jim Trusty, will be live to explain when they learned about the indictment. Stick around for Morning in America. That begins at 7 a.m. Eastern with Adrian Bankert. In other developing headlines, in a surprise decision, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of black voters in Alabama who have argued the state's Republican-drawn congressional map violated the Voting Rights Act. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court ruled Alabama must redraw a new map which increases black representation. Alabama's population is nearly 30% black, but under the current map, only one of the state's 7 congressional districts has a majority black population. The ruling could also impact congressional maps in a number of other states, such as Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia. Well, the man long suspected of playing a role in the disappearance of Natalee Holloway arrived in the U.S. on Thursday to face fraud charges. Joran Vandersloot was extradited from Peru, where he had been serving a 28-year sentence for the murder of a different woman. He's never been found guilty of Holloway's murder, but he is facing charges of extortion and wire fraud against her family. The trial is being held in Alabama. Now, Holloway disappeared in Aruba in 2005 during a high school senior trip and has not been seen since. Turning now to the East Coast, where a thick haze of smoke continues to loom over several states in the U.S. and Canada. This comes as more than 400 Canadian wildfires are burning this morning. For the last 3 days, people in New York, Philadelphia, and D.C. have been impacted by that hazardous haze. D.C. correspondent Tom Dempsey has more on what it looks like there. And Tom, I understand that several people in D.C. were wearing masks, and even the White House had to postpone the ceremony.
I got mine right here, Nick. You know what? It's Friday, so let's get right to the good news. You notice I'm not wearing the mask this morning, and that's because things have greatly improved when it comes to air quality here. Washington, D.C., and New York City, for that matter, under a code yellow is what it's called with air quality, meaning moderate conditions outside. But we thought a perfect place to show off what we're seeing here is the roof of the NewsNation Bureau here in D.C. And you can see a clear morning behind me, but if you were here literally this time yesterday, it would have looked much different, much grayer in the sky. You probably wouldn't have been able to see much of the skyline, maybe the Capitol, but not much else. But that smoke from the wildfires in Canada led to scenes like this one. We want to show you video from Thursday from around Washington, D.C. Thursday really was the worst day this week for, again, that wildfire smoke here. You couldn't see the Washington Monument from many parts. Major League Baseball canceled the Nationals game here in the afternoon due to the air quality. We also saw organizers close the National Zoo. Schools canceled outdoor recess and team sports. Some parks closed, and road work got suspended in some areas. The White House also postponed a Pride event scheduled for Thursday to this weekend. While speaking to reporters, President Joe Biden noted how the U.S. continues to help stop the wildfires in Canada and how people here should still stay alert about the conditions.
We already have 600 American firefighters on the ground and been there for a while in Canada, including hotshots and the smoke jumper crews. And it's very important that affected communities listen to the guidance of their state and local officials from this point forward.
And Nick, literally this time yesterday, right after my hit for early morning, I actually walked over to the Capitol for our Morning in America coverage. And I experienced, a slight sting to the eyes due to the smoke that was in the air. And I made sure to wear the mask on the walk over to the Capitol. But again, the big takeaway, Nick, this morning is that things have greatly improved and, much clearer air this morning.
I can see the contrast behind you now from those pictures yesterday. I used to live in Bethesda, and I could see the monument on clear days from where I lived in Bethesda. And to not be able to see that monument definitely helps to illustrate how thick that smoke was. How has D.C. compared, though, Tom, to New York City with the smoke?
Well, a great resource for all of our viewers out there to use, airnow.gov. That gives you up-to-the-minute statistics about the air quality in your area. And as part of this story, I've been typing in New York City and Washington, D.C. What I thought was surprising, all those scenes, it was terrible in New York City earlier this week. The air quality in New York City this morning is actually better than what it is in here in D.C., and you see what it's like here. So, again, things greatly improving, and we expect that to be the case heading into the weekend, Nick.
Tom Dempsey live for us this morning from our nation's capital. Tom, thank you, and put that mask back on. We need you safe. A new Cold War with Cuba could be emerging, with China stoking the fire. Coming up, why U.S. officials are sounding the alarm thanks to a possible deal between the two countries. You're watching News Nation, news for all America.
guys think came first, the chicken or the baby back rib?
Baby back ribs.
Yep. Chicken tenders all the way.
Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders.
Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders.
Baby
chicken.
back
chicken.
ribs.
Chicken.
Baby back.
Chicken tenders.
I'm gonna go get some pie.
When you find your reason to go on, let it pull you past the doubt, past the pain, and past your limits. No matter what, we go on. BioFreeze.
My mom is 81 and she's having trouble walking, taking care of herself. There are expectations. You gotta kind of shut down your emotion and just do what needs to be done. I love my mom, but I need some help.
Meet the team, all using Chase to keep up with their finances. Smart bankers, convenient tools. Boom. One bank with the power of both. Chase, make more of what's yours.
This is not just delivery. This is knowing even superheroes can use a sidekick. Walgreens. This is not just a pharmacy. This is living the care in healthcare. Walgreens.
My mental health was much better, but I struggled with uncontrollable movements called TD, tardive dyskinesia. TD can be caused by some mental health meds.
And it's unlikely to improve without treatment. I felt like my movements were in the spotlight.
Ingrezza is a prescription medicine to treat adults with TD movements. Ingrezza is different. It's the simple, once-daily treatment proven to reduce TD that's #1 prescribed. People taking Ingrezza can stay on their current dose of most mental health meds. Ingrezza 80 milligram is proven to reduce TD movements in 7 out of 10 people. Don't take Ingrezza if you're allergic to any of its ingredients. Ingrezza may cause serious side effects, including sleepiness. Don't drive, operate heavy machinery, or do other dangerous activities until you know how Ingrezza affects you. Other serious side effects include potential heart rhythm problems and abnormal movements.
It's nice. People focus more on me.
Ask your doctor about #1 prescribed once daily Ingrezza. Learn how you could pay as little as $0 at Ingrezza.com.
He's a decorated U.S. veteran and a former high-ranking intelligence officer at the Pentagon. And now, for the first time on camera, he's blowing the whistle on something extraordinary.
There's a sophisticated disinformation campaign.
What our government is hiding from you and the world.
As fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
What is the truth about UFOs? In a worldwide television exclusive, he talks to NewsNation. We are not alone. Sunday at 9, 8 Central.
Welcome back to Early Morning. You're watching NewsNation, news for all America. Concerns are growing off the coast of Florida this morning. Cuba and China are teaming up on a new surveillance base just 90 miles from the U.S., and it's causing a host of national security concerns. NewsNation correspondent Xavier Walton has been following the story. Xavier, China believed to be writing a huge check to Cuba for their cooperation. What can you tell us?
Well, Nick, you know what? This really does highlight that strained relationship between the United States and Cuba, which has been in place for decades. But it is the latest example from China in their efforts to really counter the United States on a world stage, also exerting its influence as a major economic and military player.
A short flight roughly 100 miles from Florida. In America's backyard, there are growing security concerns coming from Cuba after its agreement in principle with China, allowing Chinese intelligence services to build an electronic eavesdropping facility on the island.
It's alarming, but in many ways, it's not surprising. And I say that because China and Cuba have been developing their relationship very closely over the past few years.
Leland Vittert from Florida International University's Institute of Public Policy believes this could be an unprecedented threat. A Chinese base with advanced military has the potential to steal communications throughout the southeastern United States.
Of course, U.S. Southern Command which is one of the 6 geographic commands and is the combatant command that is in charge of U.S. military.
Cuba's agreement with China is a sign of the island's financial desperation. It's also one of several recent reports of China's attempt to spy on the United States. The White House responding by saying, in part, "We are well aware and have spoken many times to the People's Republic of China's efforts to invest in infrastructure around the world that may have military purposes, including in this hemisphere."
There are various tools in the United States' cyber toolkit, right? Both defensive and offensive, in order to limit the potential dangers that an espionage facility like this could pose.
And Nick, do want to mention some conflicting reports out there. The Wall Street Journal, who initially made this report about this deal between Cuba and China, Reuters came out with a report after that saying that the White House was aware of it, but the White House came out saying that the report itself was not accurate. So again, we're going to have to go back and get some more information, Nick.
I'm going to say, to play it safe, Xavier, I'm going to tell you to delete TikTok from your phone now so that Xi Jinping does not slide in your DMs.
Right,
Xavier Walton live for us this morning. More lawmakers on Capitol Hill are addressing a whistleblower's bombshell claims that the government has recovered non-human aircrafts. Air Force veteran and former intelligence official David Grush gave an exclusive interview to NewsNation this week. He says the military has kept a UFO program secret from the public and from Congress for decades. Some senators are telling NewsNation they are skeptical of the claims. NewsNation's Joe Khalil has the story from Washington.
As you know, we've been talking to dozens of lawmakers over the last couple of days about this story. Many of them are really fascinated by the claims made by David Grush. They want to learn more, and they think that it's worth exploring as a Congress. But you've got a couple of others that are really skeptical about this. And I want to focus on that today because I think that's an important part of the story. So we talked to a couple of them. For example, one is Senator Lindsey Graham, who told us that he simply doesn't think that the government could hold such an enormous secret for so long. And we also talked to Senator Mark Kelly, who, by the way, before had the title senator, was an astronaut. So he's actually spent time in space. He was also a Navy captain. And he told us he has trouble accepting the idea that military officials would simply mislead Congress in the way that Grush has explained. Here's a bit of both of them from our interviews.
If we'd really found this stuff, there's no way you could keep it from coming out.
You think so?
Yeah,
okay.
I just, human nature being what it is, there's a physical piece of a spacecraft or an intact spaceship. Would have known about it by now.
Obviously, whistleblowers have protection. It'll be, interesting, and I am, in favor of science and data and getting the facts.
Do you doubt that military intelligence is being, I guess, forthcoming with Congress, or, would they have reasons?
I haven't seen any reasons to believe that they're not forthcoming.
That was NewsNation's Joe Khalil reporting. Well, former President Donald Trump said Thursday that his legal team was informed that he has been indicted in a probe into his handling of classified documents. Mr. Trump posted on Truth Social that he has been ordered to appear in court in Miami on Tuesday afternoon. Special counsel Jack Smith has been overseeing the investigation of Trump since he was appointed to the role in November. Last night, Chris Cuomo interviewed former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti about the indictment of former President Donald Trump. Here's part of their conversation.
So if they're bringing it in Florida, this is just by simple, obvious nexus of fact going to be related to the Mar-a-Lago situation, which brings up basically what basket of potential charges?
Sure. I think the most important charge, Chris, is going to be willful retention of national defense information. Essentially, willfully retaining classified material. Why is that being brought in Florida? Well, when Donald Trump left the White House with that material, he was still president of the United States. He didn't willfully retain classified material he wasn't supposed to have until he was in Florida. So that's why you see the venue there in Florida. It's also worth noting, for example, there's going to be some crimes that potentially could have been charged elsewhere. Obstruction of justice will certainly be among those charges. But it's interesting that obstruction of justice occurred in Florida. It also is directed at Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of speculation. I frankly thought, because there had been some grand jury testimony in D.C., we might see 2 indictments. We still might. But it really looks like they made, I think, a conservative decision. I don't mean that politically. I mean legally, a conservative decision to indict this in Florida, which is a more difficult venue for the government for a number of reasons, more favorable to former President Trump. But they feel confident, I'm sure, about the case that they have.
Let me ask you something, Renato, just in terms of style. Why allow Trump to be the one to say this? And what's the thinking in the office that you used to work in about not telling the American people from the government that there's been an indictment?
Well, this is called doing it by the book, doing it the way you usually do it. So if someone is being indicted and they're represented by counsel, it is customary practice to inform that person through their counsel in advance.
Make sure you watch Chris Cuomo on his primetime show, Cuomo, weeknights at 8, 7 Central, right here on NewsNation. Well, coming up, the Florida Panthers are back in the Stanley Cup Series after tossing out their game plan. Plus, the Miami Heat need to do a little soul-searching to take back the lead in the NBA Finals. You're watching Sports Roundup next after the break.
Don't wish. Don't hope. Don't dream. No. Plan. See the steps it takes to get it done right and follow them. At Avis, we rent cars, unlike anyone else rents cars. Because for 75 years, we've only had one plan. To make sure you keep yours.
My active psoriatic arthritis can make me feel like I'm losing my rhythm. With Skyrizi to treat my skin and joints, I'm getting into my groove. Along with significantly clearer skin, Skyrizi helps me move with less joint pain, stiffness, swelling, and fatigue. And is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses. Skyrizi attaches to and reduces a source of excess inflammation that can lead to skin and joint symptoms. With Skyrizi, 90% clearer skin and less joint pain are possible.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing like clearer skin and better movement. And that means everything. Now's the time to ask your doctor about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
If you've had thyroid eye disease for years and you go through artificial tears in the blink of an eye, it's not too late for another treatment option. To learn more, visit treated.com. That's treat, TED.com.
Hey, also, I just downloaded the Experian app because I wanted to check my FICO score, but it does so much more. This thing shows you your FICO score, you can get your credit card recommendations, and it shows you ways to save money.
Do so much more than get your FICO score. Download the Experian app now.
Some men and women freak out when they first notice signs of hair loss. Some say, no big deal, I don't look much different. Either way, hair loss does sneak up on you. And if you do nothing, chances are you'll soon see your hair getting thinner and thinner and thinner, all while a range of great options are available to you right now.
Before you lose any more hair, grab your phone and scan this QR code. Because Bosley, America's #1 hair restoration experts, can stop your hair loss and give you your real hair back permanently. We're giving away an absolutely free information kit and a free gift card to everyone who scans the code now.
But remember, the sooner you get started, the sooner your results of great-looking hair.
For a free information kit and gift card for $250 off, scan the code. Don't wait. Scan the code now. Get the permanent solution to hair loss. Protected by the Bosley Guarantee.
Welcome back to Early Morning. Sports fans will have plenty of choices this weekend to keep them entertained. Both the NBA and NHL finals are going on right now, and both have had their share of storylines already. Let's get some analysis from an expert and friend of the show. Joining me now is Armand Lee, sports journalist and executive producer at New England Sports Network. Armand, good morning.
Nick, let me know where I should send the money for the whole experts and expert analysis. You my guy, you know. Bald and bearded brothers have to stay together.
We have to stay together. You have to save me if I get it wrong, because I've been talking about Denver the whole time. So if I've got that wrong, we can talk about that on the other side. Let's start with the guys on the ice, though. A heck of a comeback from the Florida Panthers against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 3 Thursday in the Stanley Cup. Game 4 is tomorrow. Who are you picking to win this?
So, as you noted, I am in Boston, so I have covered the downfall, the collapse, the choke job, however you want to refer to it, of the Boston Bruins. So, at this point, it's very, very hard for me to pick against Florida. As you witnessed last night, Matthew Tkachuk, again, these guys have been living on the edge all postseason long. Just over 2 minutes, they forced the equalizer, if you will, forcing the game into overtime, and then they won shortly thereafter. So Florida, they have this kind of, you can't say the heart of a champion, but they have this kind of never say die, this grit, this toughness that's really, really hard to bet against. That being said, it almost feels as if the Golden Knights are a team of destiny. They have not been in existence that long. I would assume, and this is with the largest grain of salt that you can take, that Vegas does find a way to figure this out and ultimately win the series, but not only the series, but tomorrow night. However, it is very, very difficult to root against the Panthers or pick against the Panthers, considering not only their performance this postseason, but people forget they also won the President's Trophy last season. So this isn't just some fluke. This is a quality team. They had their shortcomings last season, and they're starting to put it together. So it should be an amazing and interesting game.
In my lead up to you, I made reference about them throwing out the playbook. Panthers coach Paul Maurice flipped the script and his starting lineup in Thursday's Game 3. Should we expect that same kind of strategy in Game 4?
Well, I mean, possibly when your backs are against the wall, right? You basically throw out all logic, all reasoning, and just go with a hot hand. I don't necessarily know if we would expect, or we should expect, something drastically different than what we saw last night. But again, you can't put it past them, because this team they have this toughness, this grit that can't be quantified, but you can see it when you watch them perform and play on the ice. So I would be incredibly surprised if they adjusted the lineups again for Game 4, but you never know.
Armand, compare what we're seeing with Florida to the Miami Heat, because I want to switch to the other series that's going on right now in the NBA. The Denver Nuggets lead the series 2-1 after a dominant performance by the Joker and Jamal Murray in Game 3. What do the Heat have to do to get back into this series?
So it's interesting you put the question that way, right? Because there's so many similarities between Florida and Miami outside of just their location. Both A seeds. Both teams eliminated one of the top Boston teams to get there. And again, both teams, Florida had the President's Trophy last season, whereas Miami, we know about their culture, we know about their championship pedigree. Same thing though, just grit, whatever superlatives, whatever cliches you want to use. I don't know, however, hockey and basketball are so different. When you watch the game on, Wednesday night?
Yeah, Jimmy because Butler. I was tired Thursday morning when I came in, so it was definitely Wednesday night.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, like these are Miami stars. They played relatively well. But then when you look at Denver, you have a combo giving you a 30-point triple-double. It's the talent gap between Miami and Denver is so large that even when you have Miami performing all the grit, all the tough nose, again, all the cliches you want to use, at some point, particularly in basketball, talent wins the day. I don't think it's going to be an easy series by any definition, but I think that Denver, I don't know if you want to say they have found the keys to victory, but when you have a 7-foot Serbian who can pass like magic and move as slow as the most uncoordinated guy that you've ever played in a YMCA league and still somehow manage to score 32 points easily, you're probably on to something. All
right, Armand, I've got 30 seconds. My producer, Nichole, you know how she is. She's in my ear saying, wrap this up, Nick. 2 quick questions for you. How have Jokic and Murray been able to play so well together, and who is your pick to close this deal?
Yeah, I'm going with Denver. And I believe, unlike so many other kind of duos, dynamic duos in the NBA, Jokic and Murray, they complement each other so well. That's why they play so well together. There's no kind of ego. I think everybody knows that Joker is the lead guy, and Murray actually has the skill set and the talent to complement him. So that should be 30 seconds, and I know Nichole is probably yelling at you right now, so I'm going to back one out because I don't want that heat myself.
Because you know it's coming, don't you? Armand Lee, executive producer at New England Sports Network, thank you so much for joining me on my last show this morning.
No, thank you, and shout out to everybody who puts this show on, from the production team to the crew in the studio. You guys are amazing.
And you are missed, sir. A 911 call no one would believe coming up. The remarkable story from one Las Vegas family after they say they saw aliens in their backyard. Yeah, I'm not making that up. Early morning, we'll be right back after the break.
What's the #1 retinol brand used most by dermatologists? It's Neutrogena. Rapid wrinkle repair smooths the look of fine lines in 1 week, deep wrinkles in 4. So you can kiss wrinkles goodbye. Neutrogena.
Meet 3 students, all learning to save and spend their money with Chase. Freedom for kids? Thank you, chef. Control for parents? Nice. One bank for both. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
What do you guys think came first, the chicken or the baby back rib?
Baby back ribs.
Yep. Chicken tenders all the way.
Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders.
Baby back ribs.
Chicken tenders.
Baby back ribs. Baby back.
Chicken tenders.
On second thought, it really depends which side of the buffet you start on.
Shopping for Father's Day is hard.
Actually, it's easy.
You never know what to get him.
Just give me steak.
It has to be perfect.
Yep. Dads want steak.
Right now, Omaha Steaks is offering Dad's favorite gift package that includes 4 of our exquisite bacon-wrapped filet mignons, 4 air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, boneless pork chops, jumbo Frank's dessert, and more. All for just $99.99. Save 61%. Order today at omahasteaks.com/TV and you'll get 8 burgers free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
If you're a Medicare beneficiary and live in the area, call now to see how this little card could get you some big benefits, including money added back to your Social Security check each year. With one toll-free call, you can find out how easy it is to get all of your original Medicare coverage, plus extra benefits. You get an all-in-one plan designed to fit your needs so you can be your best every day. You could have medical coverage, prescription drugs with $0 generics, dental, vision and hearing, plus the WellCare Visa Flex Card to pay for extra dental, vision, and hearing expenses, money for over-the-counter items, and money back in your Social Security check each year, and so much more. And here's more good news. You can get a WellCare plan for a $0 monthly premium. How can WellCare offer all of those benefits for a $0 monthly premium? It's simple. Medicare Advantage and Medicare Part D prescription drug coverage are important parts of Medicare. WellCare has a contract with Medicare to offer and provide these important options to you. Call right now to get your free copy of the WellCare All-in-One Guide. Call 1-866-522-9415 now. There is absolutely no obligation for requesting this free information. WellCare offers benefits that go beyond the basics, including money each year added to your Social Security check to help cover your Part B premium. Call today to get your free copy of the All-in-One Guide with absolutely no obligation. Your free plan guide will provide information to make a smart choice for your Medicare coverage. Just call 1-866-522-9415. Remember, there's no obligation for requesting this free information. So call 1-866-522-9415. Call today. WellCare. Medicare done well.
If you've had thyroid eye disease for years, and you can't get any shut-eye because you can't shut your eyes, it's not too late for another treatment option. To learn more, visit treatted.com. That's treat.com.
Welcome back to Early Morning. I'm Nick Smith. Former President Donald Trump will face federal charges in a Miami courtroom next week. Special counsel Jack Smith is charging the former president in connection to the classified documents case. Sources tell NewsNation 7 charges are expected. Those court documents have yet to be unsealed, and the severity of the charges is not yet known. Mr. Trump posted on Truth Social not long after the announcement. He lashed out at the investigation, calling it a witch hunt. Last night, Dan Abrams interviewed National Security Attorney Mark Zaid about the indictment of former President Donald Trump. Here's part of their conversation.
Do you agree with me that the fact that they have charged on this, what's called, the 793 charge, the National Defense Information count in this, and we can put up the definition of that as we're talking, does that say to you something about how important the documents they believe he retained were?
Yes, I would agree, and I think this was, based on what we know, a correct charge. We'll see what the facts, of course. And you're right, it doesn't have to be under the statute that it's classified information. Right. National Defense Information is a centuries-old definition. It existed prior to the current classification system. I would be surprised, though, if the information were not classified, because I think, based on what both you and Chris are saying, from a public relations standpoint, that would be horrible if this were just national defense information, which so many things could fit into. It would also be a problem, unlike what I have seen in other Espionage Act cases, including ones that I have worked on for the defense, where the information was questionably classified, where if the statute permitted, which it frankly does not, to challenge the classification status of the document, there would be a good defense argument. I would hope, because of all the reasons both of you have been discussing, that whatever these documents are that make up the 793 charge are going to be so clearly classified that it will leave little wiggle room. But we'll see.
We will continue to follow this developing story on air and online. Make sure you watch Dan Abrams on his primetime show, Dan Abrams Live, weeknights at 9, 8 Central, right here on News Nation. Well, it's a story so strange it may be hard to believe. That's what one Las Vegas man thought when he says he saw aliens in his family's backyard. Correspondent Nancy Liu explains.
Good morning, everyone. This is a remarkable story of an alleged alien encounter which happened about a month ago, leaving a Las Vegas family pretty shaken. And the father was well aware that he might not be believed when he called 911 to report large non-human figures in the family's backyard.
I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us.
Other members of the man's family also reported seeing the creatures, and an investigation by Nexstar station KLAS uncovered an extraordinary sequence of events from around midnight on May 1st.
I'm so nervous right now.
Just minutes before the 911 call, the body cam of a Las Vegas police officer had captured this, something falling from the sky. That added eerie context for the officer who responded to the 911 call.
I have butterflies, bro. Everyone saw a shooting star, then these people say there's aliens in their backyard.
That night, there were several reports of flashes in the sky stretching across California, Nevada, and Utah, and a drone captured some ring-like markings in the family's Las Vegas backyard.
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious.
Big eyes. They have big eyes,
Okay.
like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Of course, there have been many reported sightings and similar reports over the decades, but this Vegas incident perhaps has more weight given the recent claims of whistleblower Dave Brush, who spoke with NewsNation exclusively about alleged evidence that we are not alone. I'm Nancy Liu, News Nation.
Nancy, what happened to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? Well, it's been 5 years since Ebony Giddens last saw her family at a weekend barbecue. The following Monday, the young mother of 3 had vanished without a trace. Her boyfriend at the time now sits in jail, but police have not identified a suspect in her disappearance. Her family continues to search for answers in hopes of finding her, or at least finding closure for themselves and for her 3 young sons. News Nation's Marni Hughes filed this report.
It was a typical spring Monday morning, March 12, 2018. Ebony Giddens' brother, Alvin, knocked on her door on Montclair Drive in Columbus, Georgia, just part of the everyday routine, picking her sons up to take them to school.
Once he knocked on the door and see she wasn't coming to the door, I guess he, began knocking harder, and the kids answered the door, and it was like, well, she's not here. So we was like, she's not there, what's going on? So at that point, we knew something wasn't right because she'll never leave her kids by herself.
When he went inside the apartment with his 5-year-old nephew, he found Ebony's purse left behind in the living room. Her wallet and keys were also there, but both Ebony and her phone were gone. Where was Ebony? The 27-year-old mother of 3 boys, ages 9, 5, and 2, built her life around them.
As a mom, she would do anything for her boys. Anything they wanted, anything she could try to get, she will get for them. She had them. She was taking care of them, so she was doing the best she could.
Just 2 days before, Ebony was with her family at a weekend cookout. It was a typical Saturday night, eating barbecue, playing cards. She loved playing spades, deuces, and dominoes. It was the last time they would see her.
My favorite moments is when we would be at the barbecues and we're playing cards, laughing, have a good time, joking around, and she'll, act like she know what she doing and she don't even know what she doing for real.
But that March night, Ebony had a secret. The man she was dating, Malcolm Jackson, was abusive, and sometimes he frightened her. Just the day before, she called the police after he had put a gun to her head during a fight.
Most things she would keep to herself because she know how my family will react to him.
Police arrested Jackson and locked him up. Ebony had filed a restraining order, but he was back home the same day, calling her over and over again in violation of the order.
She was very afraid of him. Some of the things that we did find out that was going on, we didn't know. She wouldn't tell us. He was abusing her. Some of the things that he was saying to her, the places that he would take her. He would leave her in the middle of the street somewhere, and she would have to try to get home by herself.
These details all coming to light after Ebony's disappearance. There were searches around town in this city of about 200,000 people. Police, family, and friends searched the neighborhood on Montclair Drive where Ebony was last seen. They also went looking for her in wooded areas near her apartment and in neighboring towns where Jackson had left her on the road during arguments. Many people looking for this quiet, loving mother who had suddenly disappeared. Jackson was out of jail at the time of Ebony's disappearance, but was jailed again on charges of aggravated stalking and violating the probation. A year later, he was found guilty of assault, possession of a firearm, and of stalking Ebony. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison, but not for Ebony's disappearance. During the search for Ebony, her family was also the target of extortion and online threats. The family now says they hang on to hope and their faith for an answer.
Overall, we try to give it to God and let him handle it because at this point, we can't handle it. It's a lot.
We just keep praying and trying to keep hoping that one day we mainly want closure, even if it may be that she is dead. But we want some closure and to give the kids some closures to what happened to her. That these kids, because they're constantly growing, that they knowing that they had a mother and one day they didn't have her, but we don't know what happened.
That was Marni Hughes reporting. For more on that story, you can go to newsnationnow.com. The future of gig work is just getting started. Coming up, why it won't just be for Uber drivers and Door Dashers, and how the gig economy is helping the healthcare industry. That and more when Early Morning returns.
You were saying you needed to talk to me ASAP. What's going on?
I had a concussion in my ear.
Another NewsNation exclusive. Prison escapee Casey White is speaking out.
I never expected that Casey White would call me. What Casey said was shocking.
I got a woman as a baby girl buried up in Evans Building.
I think that's highly unlikely.
He's a master manipulator.
We did our own open records request and turned up nothing that matched the timeline.
Hi.
Hello there.
Would you like some lemonade? $5, please.
Had enough inflation? Undo inflation with Dish. Get the same TV bill every month for 3 years.
Supply chain issues.
The 3-year TV price guarantee, only from Dish.
If you've had thyroid eye disease for years and itchy eyes have you itching for a fight, it's not too late for another treatment option. To learn more, visit treatted.com. That's treat, TED.com.
This right here is confidence in a bottle.
Not only does it change you on the outside, but something in the inside, knowing that you're looking better.
It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt in my life.
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Well, today we're going to see one for ourselves and let you be the judge. It's called Plexiderm, and lifestyle expert Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and you'll notice the model has bags underneath his eyes and some sagging, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face, and that's how easy it is.
All right, what's the active ingredient?
Okay, so it's silicates that are minerals found in shale rock, and what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes, and as little as 10 minutes, no prescriptions, and very little effort. Even watching the video, this is a real, it's a model, but it's a real guy with real bags underneath his eyes.
My real true opinion is wholly words I can't say on camera. This is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I could feel it just lifting my skin. It was amazing. It feels good. Feels great. Looks even better.
And I did this to my father. We were at home. So we applied it to his under eye bags. And let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view. And now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. He calls me every single month saying, "Hey, Annette, I'm out of Plexiderm, please send me more." And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles. The way you want to do it is you want to have a clean, dry face. You use a small amount because it's so powerful. You have high school reunions, you have events you want to go to, you want to look years younger, this is it.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work for yourself after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
Do you listen to the TV on high volume or have trouble hearing conversations? Then you would benefit from hearing aids. Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get Nano's revolutionary technology for just $297. Don't be fooled by higher-priced hearing aids. The CIC Recharge is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. Call now and get not one, but 2 Nano hearing aids for just $297. Plus, we'll add a portable charging case and ship your order absolutely free. The CIC Recharge has a tiny in-the-ear canal design that is nearly invisible. Why keep missing out on important conversations or waste thousands of dollars? Call and get 2 CIC Recharge hearing aids for only $297 and free shipping.
800-351-5200. Again, that's 800-351-5200.
Welcome back to Early Morning. When it comes to gig work, the medical world, part-time work is usually reserved for doctors transitioning into retirement, right? But with physician burnout rates increasing daily, many are turning to temporary jobs as their full-time careers. Healthcare workers have been overwhelmed with work since the start of the pandemic. It's led to overloaded patient rosters and burnt-out nurses and doctors. According to the American Medical Association, burnout rates exploded over the last several years, with a 25% spike in the number of physicians reporting at least one burnout symptom. That, combined with shrinking pay, have many healthcare professionals looking to make a change. According to a recent study in the Journal of General Internal Medicine, nearly a quarter of all physicians in the U.S. said they plan to quit in the next 2 years. But for those still looking to practice medicine, there may be another way. Gig work. The gig economy has revolutionized jobs like food delivery, car services, and house cleaning. Think of companies like Uber, DoorDash, or Instacart. But the concept still seems foreign to many white-collar professionals. Still, gig work is on the rise for lawyers, consultants, and even in the medical world, where it's not that new of a concept.
Locums tenens is basically an option where individuals fill in. A specialist was away from their practice, somebody's on maternity leave, someone to be on vacation. And so you needed a placeholder doctor to be there to fill in that capacity.
According to medical staffing company CHG Healthcare, nearly 50,000 doctors in the U.S. are taking locum tenens assignments in 2022. That's nearly 7% of all U.S. physicians, excluding foreign medical school graduates, and a nearly 90% spike from 2015. Dr. Ripal Patel, an emergency medical physician and an assistant professor at Baylor College of Medicine, says there are many reasons why doctors are making the shift to temporary work.
Often you feel like a factory worker, and you're at the mercy of these administrators.
The Labor Department reports the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits last week rose to its highest level since October 2021. Applications for jobless claims were 261,000 for the week ending June 3rd, an increase of 28,000 from the previous week. Weekly job claims are considered representative of U.S. layoffs, but analysts are warning that these numbers may be revised due to last week's three-day weekend. However, the labor market remains one of the healthiest parts of the U.S. economy, as employers added 339,000 jobs last month, well above expectations. Well, Louisiana lawmakers have passed a bill limiting their youth's access to social networks, prohibiting online services, including multiplayer video games and video sharing apps, from allowing children under 18 to sign up for accounts without parental consent, something Utah is already doing. It would also allow parents to cancel the terms of service contracts that their children signed up for on existing accounts on popular services like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Fortnite, Roblox, and others. Now, the Louisiana state legislature passed the bill by unanimous vote after the state Senate passed the bill, which now waits to be approved by the governor, who has not taken a public stance on the measure. Well, President Joe Biden is using his veto against a House resolution on student debt relief. The resolution would have blocked residents and students and the president's plan to forgive as much as $20,000 of student loan debt for millions of Americans. The plan's fate now hangs in the balance of the Supreme Court. It's currently in the court's slate of cases that could be decided sometime this summer. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for Early Morning. Don't go anywhere, because Morning in America starts in 3 minutes. We'll see you there.